So I've been on a journey to make the best plant-based steak. Now I started off this journey with the Beyond Meat steak, and then I've tried the Impossible steak. Now we're gonna go a bunch of different avenues from here, and we're gonna step away from the branded steaks and see if we can figure out a way to make our own plant-based steak at home. And there's a lot of comments that really gave me some good tips that I think I'm gonna try out in the next plant-based steak video. But today I'm gonna make something a little bit different. See, in the Impossible steak video, I mentioned the Impossible Philly cheesesteak sandwich would be out of this world good. So today we are going to make the Impossible steak and cheese. So after my last cheese taste testing video, a lot of you recommended that I try the Chow cheese, and I'll tell you, you were right. This is probably some of the best vegan cheese that I've had. This is incredible. So we're gonna put together the steak and cheese using the leftover Impossible meat that I had. This was the one that I didn't sear. This is just the one that got steamed. And the Chow cheese with some regular onions, green peppers, and mushrooms. Really simple steak and cheese recipe. And let me see if my friends can figure out what I'm giving them exactly. So like I said, this is gonna be a really simple recipe. We have half of the steak, which was, I wanna say this is gonna come in around 8 ounces or so. I dropped this in the freezer, so it's gonna make it easier for me to slice into really thin slices. We have about a cup of mushrooms, a cup of onions, and a whole green pepper, along with that Chow cheese. I'm gonna make kind of like a meaty broth to go along with this, that while we're simmering this, I'm just gonna pour that broth in, kind of just add a little bit more meaty-like flavor to this steak. So let's get moving on this recipe. So we're gonna heat up the pan with a bit of olive oil. I'm gonna throw the veggies in first because I want the veggies to soften up. Because this is the seitan meat, the Impossible meat, it doesn't really take a whole lot to cook this. So the veggies are gonna take just a few minutes longer than the meat. I'm gonna drop in these onions as well, and it's gonna come together perfectly. Now I got about a cup of mushrooms here. Now these are sliced mushrooms. I'm just gonna go ahead and just chop them a little bit smaller, spread around, and then let these guys cook together and soften up while we get ready to slice our steak. Now the steak, like I said, was in the freezer, so it is pretty firm. It's not frozen solid. This is gonna make it a heck of a lot easier to slice into the thin steak and cheese-like slices that we want. Just gonna hold this with a bit of the parchment paper so that way the heat from my fingers doesn't go through and kind of melt this through. But let's get some thin slices, as thin as we can get. Now ultimately, however thin you slice your steak is just gonna depend on your preference. Personally, I like it pretty thin. So our peppers and onions are cooked down. They're looking really good. You can see how we got about half of what we originally had in there. We have all of our sliced meat. This stuff looks perfect. I mean, I can't, honestly, this is gonna be so good. This is already cooked seitan, so you can eat it how it is. We're just gonna warm it up and flavor it a little bit more. But I'll be honest, it's pretty good. So really quick, all I'm gonna do is mix together about a teaspoon or so of Marmite. We're gonna add about a teaspoon of liquid smoke and some apple cider vinegar. Again, about a teaspoon. Now I'm gonna do my best to little whisk this together. So right now we're just gonna set all this seitan right on top of those veggies. Gonna let those steam in there, really warm this up. Okay, this guy's steaming real nice. We're just gonna pour this flavoring right over top here. It's gonna be good. It smells like a steak and cheese with all those peppers and onions and that like really meaty type of smell cooking up. I mean, that's just good. That is just downright good. So I'm gonna hit this with some salt. Now I'm thinking 4 steak and cheese sandwiches out of this. We'll find out. And some black pepper. Now I'm gonna drop probably 4 or 5 slices of this Chow cheese right on top. We're gonna kind of let that mix through. It's looking like 4. Now I say these are pretty thick slices, so they'll go a long way. I'm gonna let that cheese melt. Let's prep some buns. Now these are just regular hoagie rolls. I checked, they are vegan hoagie rolls. I got these from my regular grocery store deli. I think a lot of hoagie rolls are just already vegan. Now me, I like my steak and cheese with some mayo. So I'm just gonna do some vegan mayo here. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm also gonna put just a slice of cheese in each one. Kind of just up that authentic factor a little bit. And let's load these suckers up. I mean, look at that. I just cannot get over this. So I sliced this in half. I mean, look at this thing. Look at it. That's so amazing. Let's give it a try and see what it tastes like. Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah, that is good. I think they'll dig this. This is a steak and cheese. Unsteak and cheese. They're the unsteakable. I'm gonna take this over to my friend's house, see what they think, see if they think this tastes like a steak and cheese. I think they will.
It's close to meat. I enjoy it.
I don't mind it, actually.
You like it? You like it?
Yeah, it's good.
Does it taste like a steak and cheese?
It's not, it tastes pretty similar, I think so.
Okay,
Pretty
so
similar.
you wouldn't be fooled with it.
No.
I like the flavor.
Okay, so I found out at the end that my friends really only knew that it was a plant-based steak because I brought it over. I'll leave a little clip at the end here for some proof because it really did taste like a steak and cheese. I mean, I really got to get better at tricking people.
So wait a minute, Joe, you're telling me that you knew that it was a vegan steak and cheese because I brought it over, but if Ray would have brought you the same sandwich, you wouldn't have questioned it.
Ray wouldn't do that to me,
So that's the answer then.
well.
If Ray were to bring you a sandwich, a steak and cheese sandwich,
And say, this is a steak and cheese sandwich. Do you want it?
and would you have second guessed at all that that was a steak and cheese sandwich?
No.